and is now actively undermining those same institutions. I won't name all of them, but let's just pick out the United Nations as one of those institutions. So I think that from Europe, I think we have quite a gloomy outlook, I have to be honest with you, at the moment, given where we're caught. Europe feels very isolated, and its Muslim minorities feel even more isolated within that isolation. But maybe your view from Turkey is different. You look out to Central Asia, you look out to Asia, where the world is renewing itself, where there could be a new source of global stability. We don't know yet. So I think what we're looking for is guidance in these times. At the popular level, I'm very sorry to say that there's an emotional reaction to the crisis. So people are not thinking through crisis, but rather what they're doing is they're emotionally reacting to crisis. So there's a lot of talk of millenarian talk about end times and going into a kind of cocoon where you just have to survive the moment. You can't renew or rebuild. You just have to survive. So there's a lot of survivalist thinking out there. We found it as a very sort of devastating, everybody experienced the last 2 years as a devastating experience. I mean, genocides have always occurred, but rarely have we had them come into our hands and to see them. Everybody's seen it. And the attempt to carry on with business as usual is devastating, and we don't really want to live in a world where that becomes normalized, because that would not be the last live stream genocide. It might be the first. So, I mean, I think we come together in a very important moment, and we're very grateful. The professor is going to, in this first session, is going to, I guess, take us up to the early 20th century, roughly?
Yeah, until
something like that?
More than that.
Okay,
I will summarize it.
Post-World War, yeah.
Okay.
She's going to sort of take us through a kind of tour d'horizon, quick, broad sweep, talk about how civilization is formed, what shapes it's taken historically, what its pillars are, and how, in a way, to learn from history how civilization, fragile as it is, how it can be sustained and allowed to flourish. So I think this is the purpose of this first session is to act as a backdrop before we come in the second session and the third session to talk about our present moment.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you. Over to you, Professor.
Most welcome. Thank you very much. Thanks, Brother Mizan, and thanks to Brother Yahya for this very impressive efficiency in organizing this series of lectures. In fact, I have to confess one thing. I missed teaching rooms, being lecturer for many years. I had, this is my habitat. This is my environment, natural environment. Throughout of my life, I had been teaching, and for me, teaching is a matter of ethics, a matter of intellectual discourse. But it is a characteristic. It is some sort of shapes the characters, both for the lecturers and for the audience, and interaction. So therefore, I want to summarize first what I am planning to do throughout the day. This is so impressive when Mizan mentioned this to me. In one day, in fact, I want to share my intellectual and political adventure to understand what our generation tried to do and what we achieved, what we failed. The first session, all of us, all human beings, in fact, all created beings, they are bound to space and time. We cannot specify the time we lived, and we cannot specify even the space where we were born. So each of us, we are trying to give a meaning to time and space within which we were born. Therefore, I will make a journey of historical flow of civilizations in order to understand Islamic civilization and its encounter with the Western civilization, and as a Turkish, as the geography of my destiny, how we approach to this, and how I personally had chance to bridge the gap between theory and practice. Sometimes people ask me, how did you join politics? I say, which politics? Narrow politics or a more wider understanding of politics? Because my first article, which was published in a daily newspaper, was when I was, 10 years old, fifth primary school. So from my childhood, I was in politics in a wider sense. But because our generation in the world was the generation of 1960s, 70s, there was a revival of the youth, a rebellious ethics against capitalism, against hegemony, against colonialism. And in Turkey, our generation was the second generation of the republic. We were searching for our source because there was a very comprehensive westernization process, but there was an issue of identity. Who am I? This is the basic question. Who am I? Therefore, our generation started politics or ideological confrontations, questions from the early years of our life. But narrow politics, in the sense being a politician, it is very new. 2009, when I became Minister of Foreign Affairs. When I was chief advisor, I was a bureaucrat, not politician. And I resisted to be a politician for many years, decades. I always focused on intellectual endeavor. My main problems when I was high school student, the main question in our mind was, why are we underdeveloped? I was born in Konya, the capital city of Selçuklu state, the first capital city of Islam in Anatolia. So the city of Mevlana Celaleddin Rumi. So I was feeling the spirit of Islamic civilization. And it is called, Konya is sometimes called small Mecca, Mecca of Anatolia, very religious capital like Kyoto of Japan. So, and I studied all of my schools in Istanbul, the capital of three empires, the center of the caliphate, and the center of the geopolitical flow of the history. So I was questioning, I was saying, why are we underdeveloped? I have a legacy of big traditions. I have a strong identity of Islamic civilization, but we are underdeveloped. So our question first was very much economic oriented because of those years, rise of Marxism. Our question was underdevelopment. But when I started university, the question has changed in my mind. I start to understand that economics is a result, not a reason, thinking the opposite way of Marxist approach. And I decided to study BA in economics first. Second year, I start political science as the double major. And meanwhile, I start to study all civilizations. And in 1983, when I was third year student in the university, I made a world tour. I visited with a youth conference all the basic capitals of civilizations: Jerusalem, Rome, Istanbul, Delhi, China, Beijing. So I had chance to make a comparative analysis of religions. All the night in Mount Zaytun and prayed Salatul Fajr in Masjid al-Aqsa when Sabra Shatila massacres occurred in Lebanon. Again, I went to the birthplace of Buddha. For me, of course, Rome was very impressive. So then I start to think this is even more than that. Not economics, not politics. The issue is much more deeper. It is more philosophical, more civilizational. I also made an MA in Faculty of Theology on Hadith and Tafsir. I had traditional education in Arabic. And for me, We needed a new intellectual prototype in the Muslim world to understand the depth of all this civilizational encounter. Therefore, I tried to combine Islamic teachings with the Western modern sciences. And when I start to write my PhD, I said the problem is not just an economics, not just politics. It is the problem is a mindset. And I asked the question, how civilizations did emerge? I focused on, and now I am giving this book, Alternative Paradigms. My PhD is published in 1994 by University Press of America. And I developed a new terminology. What is the difference between Islam and the West? I am a Muslim. I am proud of being an intellectual follower of Islamic civilization, but I had all of my educational background. I was in a German high school and in an American university, so I was able to read Western classics from after primary school. And I started to think the classics of both civilizations and other civilizations. The basic concept of this book was, many people think that civilizations did emerge based on perceptions of others. I declined this. I said, all civilizations emerged from an ontological question, who am I? And there, the main issue is self-perception. And I use the concept, Husserlian concept, Selbstverständnis in German language, Selbstverständnis. Why did, and this is the worldviews, my PhD thesis was a comparative analysis of Western and Islamic alternative, the impact of alternative worldviews on political theories. And I said the difference between Islam and the West is based on how they approach to the ontology of humanity. And ontological hierarchy and ontological proximity. For me, ontological proximity was an understanding to make God, human being, and nature closer to each other. Through that, several philosophies and religious traditions did emerge. Christianity, because of the approach to Jesus Christ, the ontological proximity between God and human being. And I don't want to go into details of this thesis because it is another conference. But at the end of the day, I said the basic difference of Islamic civilization is Tawhidic belief, which makes the ontological hierarchy and harmony between God, human beings, and nature. Then I start to look the background of these. I said, if a civilization, if we define the civilization, the nucleus, the seed of civilization is, if a religion, a philosophy brings a new ontological approach to humanity, provoking a new question and providing an alternative self-perception to human beings. In that sense, Islamic civilization had a unique characteristics. For example, I studied Hinduism, and with a group of students after PhD, I especially in-depth studies Hinduism, civilization in India, let me say. Because civilization in India is so interesting. It is the ancient civilizations, the sources of Aryan culture, European Aryan culture, is from India. And that Aryan culture, how it continued up to Western civilization, the ancient Indian philosophy, Islam came, 10th, 11th century. Islam has transformed, and Islam being transformed by a very impressive interaction. Then Western colonialism came, 19th century, especially after 1857, and ancient civilizations from Tamils, from Pataliputra to Rig Vedas, formation of caste system, etc. Islam came and challenged to this through Tawhidic principle. Then Western colonialization came, Western colony. Therefore, if you ask me, who is your teacher, I usually say some of them whom I didn't see. For me, maybe the best interpretation of this challenge is Muhammad Iqbal. I praise him. I learned a lot of things from him. This challenge between Islamic and Western civilization, Muhammad Iqbal was very unique and original. So, coming to Gandhi and all this, why I am giving these details? So, when I look at the authentic civilizations, Chinese civilization, Indian civilization, Mediterranean civilization, Greek civilization, Mesopotamian, Egyptian, Iranian, they were interacted, but they had their own self-perception. Confucianism brought a new ethics to Chinese, and these. Then I studied more. Why this was so interesting for me, just to change the mindset of the modern era. I was invited to Malaysia when I completed my thesis. International Islamic University was established. They saw the article which was published before my thesis, and they invited me to establish political science department because of this combination of Islamic and Western politics. First day when I went there, I was asked to teach history of political thought. Such a room. I went to the room, 1990, year 1990, and I had a book, History of Political Thought, George Sabine. It's a classical book, textbook. I went, when I looked to the classroom, I didn't show the book even, because it is much more powerful than this audience. There were students from Chinese origin, from Malay, from El Salvador, from Africa, from everywhere. I said, if I taught this book to these students, I would be brainwashing them, but because that book was starting with Greek philosophy, Greeks, Socrates, Plato, all these, then Roman political thought, then Christianity, St. Augustine, then scholastic thought, Thomas Aquinas, etc., then Renaissance, then Reformation, modern ideologies, and end. If I teach this book, I said, I will brainwash students that humanity means Europe. There is no other place of civilization except Mediterranean and Europe. There was no single Chinese philosopher in that book. There was no single Indian or Muslim. There were two names, Muslim names, if you know that they are Muslim, because they didn't say Ibn Rushd, Ibn Sina, they said Averroes, Avicenna. Then I hid the book. I said, if there is a political thought of humanity, this is not the right textbook. And I produced another one with my original notes, starting with Chinese, Indian, Persian, yes, Greeks, Romans, Islamic thought, Western thought, Ottoman Western confrontation, two different alternatives of political approach, modern times, Iqbal and Gandhi, all these. So today, this is the challenge. There is a Eurocentric cultural hegemony, assuming that all the other cultures did emerge because of the originality of Western, Greek, Roman, Judaic, Christian approach. So this was a test for me, and from that theoretical background, intellectual challenge was how to teach history to a group of students from different sources. How civilization interaction emerged? For me, the axial age before Christ, 6th to 4th century, basically, almost all civilizational traditions, ancient traditions, they had a revival. In China, Taoism and Confucius, that's centuries. In India, Buddha and Jain. In Persia, Zoroastrian. In Greece, Plato, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. So as if there was some sort of historical dynamism, changed and revived and reformed all religious traditions, all philosophical traditions in that exile century. This was what I called the first limited globalization in my book, in another article. Limited globalization. People think when this concept of globalization did emerge, people thought that globalization is a modern phenomenon. No. Globalization, if it is just consumption culture, it might be discussed. But diffusion to Persian, to Anatolia, Egypt, Persia, Iran, India, up to Afghanistan, almost all traditional civilizations, they encountered under the very fast spread of the Alexandrian Empire. And I then realized, okay, why? The city of Alexandriate, he established, I think, 12 or 13 cities. He destroyed Persepolis, but even the Afghan, we have Afghan friends, Kandahar was established as a city by Alexander. Then I thought about the cities. I said, why cities are so important? And I wrote a book. In fact, it was part of a book which I didn't publish, Historical Depth, Strategic Depth, and Philosophical Depth. Usually, my book, Strategic Depth, became very famous because of its influence on foreign policy, but foreign policy for me is a result. Philosophical depth, historical depth, and strategic depth. Philosophical depth is your personal questioning of your self-perception. Yes, I am a Muslim, I am a human being, I am a descendant of Ottoman tradition, etc. You have a philosophical depth, I will come to that point. A historical depth, from where I am coming, then which type of strategy I would be using for this, for humanity, for my geographical spatial area, and for my nation. This is my personal adventure, and I looked about it. In that book, Pivot Cities, as a part of historical depth, Routledge, I don't have that book here. Routledge has published this 3 years ago, Pivotal Cities in the history of civilizations. When I say pivotal cities, cities are the organic structure of a civilization. And yesterday at Oxford Union, I taught about political order. Even today, when we talk about order, what do we mean by order? Why human beings looked for an order, political order, international order, world order? What does order mean? Is it so important, and why? My friends, all human beings necessitates two things, existential two things. One is security for biological, physical survival. The second one is freedom for psychological and mental survival. So political order means a structure which provides security and freedom to all human beings. If a regime says, I will give you security, but don't ask from me freedom, that regime is autocratic. If somebody says, okay, we should not have any rule, any constraint, there should be full freedom, security is not important, this is chaos. Cosmos and chaos. We all look for cosmos. War is chaos. peace is cosmos. So why cities were important in those times? Because cities were providing security and through trade, through interaction, Silk Road was a road of not only silk, ideas, thoughts, and that freedom brings you personal integrity. Now, therefore I said ontology is the basis of everything, not politics. And Islamic polity must have an ontological framework for the humanity. Then that civilization becomes universal. What do I mean by limited globalization? Limited globalization means globalization through interaction of civilizations. Now we have more global, not limited, direct globalization now. But for example, through Alexandrian city, I said pivotal cities. I categorize cities into 7 categories. I said 1, cities which established, founded civilizations. Who are these? I said Pataliputra, for Indian civilization. Athens is a city which established Greek civilization. Rome, the city itself gave the name of Roman order. And Medina. Medina is the source of Islamic civilization. I will come to that, why Medina and Islamic civilization was unique in history. Second category of the cities is the cities which was established by civilizations. What can you suggest any city for this? So civilizations did emerge, developed, concentrated, and it has been formed. The best example is Baghdad. Baghdad is the city which was established by a civilization. Medina is the city which established the civilization. Similarly, Paris, London, these are established by a civilization, trying to replicate Athens or Rome. Third category is the cities which were transplanted from one place to another place. For example, in our history, if you go to Bukhara, Samarkand, all the way come to Anatolia, the structure of the city of Bukhara is almost same like Konya, my hometown. When I went to Bukhara first, I felt the spirit of Konya. When I smelled, this is Konya. Then from Konya to Bursa, from Bursa to Sarajevo. If you look to go to Sarajevo, it is a small replication of Bursa. So as if the spirit of the city transferred throughout the centuries to another place, intercontinental transplanting. Similarly, in Western civilization, for example, Singapore, is it a Chinese city? No. Or Hong Kong. So Western modernization transplanted some, or Sydney, to other continents. Fourth, ghost cities. Some cities were very vital and dynamic cities in the history, but later became ghost city. City is there, but the spirit is not there. Basically, city from the early times up to today is multicultural. If a city becomes very unique, just monotype, that city starts to lose the spirit. The best example, this ghost city, was used by Mark Mazower for Saloniki. Saloniki was a city during Ottoman time. Muslims, Christians, Jews, Turks, Greeks, Albanians, everybody, all Eastern Europe was flowing to Saloniki. And Saloniki has a huge Jewish population because Ottoman state accepted them after the Spanish exile. But later, Saloniki became just a Greek city, and all Muslims left, Jews left, and it lost that spirit of multicultural. This concept I borrowed from Mark Mazower for Saloniki, ghost city. There is another type of city, lost city. Cities which were destroyed by another civilization, like Persepolis, like Tectotlian, the Aztec capital, which was destroyed, totally destroyed by Admiral Cortes, or like Farab, the city of Farabi. It is in Kazakhstan today. It was totally destroyed by Mongols. And another type of city is geoeconomic lines, cities on geoeconomic lines, like from Baghdad, Mesopotamia to Levant, Anatolia, Levant, Baghdad, Mosul, Aleppo, Damascus, Beirut, or from Andalusia, Cordoba, Marrakesh, Timbuktu. So, or Silk Road cities, because of geoeconomic interaction, they were interacted. The most important cities, they are the cities which transformed civilizations and being transformed by the civilization. The best examples are Jerusalem, Cairo, and Istanbul, my city. In Istanbul, you can see of all authentic legacies. This is interesting. I will sometimes make jumping from the history to today. Cairo also, very impressive. I stayed in Cairo for 3 months to improve my Arabic in 1988. I was very impressed. I walked hours and hours in the streets of Cairo just to understand the city of Cairo. Afterwards, in 2009, I went to Cairo. The current Secretary General of Arab League, Ahmet was Minister of Foreign Affairs of Egypt. This was my first trip after becoming minister. As chief advisor, I visited several times. And emotion. And I wrote an article in El Ahram explaining about Turkish-Egyptian relation, Cairo's. I made reference to 1517 when Ottomans conquered Cairo. Then I asked our ambassador, I said, please invite all anti-Turkish, anti-Ottoman Arab nationalists to a room. I want to speak to them. I want to discuss with them. El Ahram Center invited all Arab nationalists who were thinking that Ottoman era is an era of colonialism. We start to discuss. They ask questions, I answered. They ask, and Egyptian TV made a live program, and the person there asked, "How come you are Minister of Turkey? You are writing an article in Al Ahram, and you are referring to 1517, which is the date of invasion of Cairo by Turks. How arrogant you are!" I said, I just smiled. I said, look, my brother, if Ottoman era of Cairo is colonial and invasion, then there is no Cairo in this story. There is no Cairo. If Ottomans are foreigners, and therefore you think that it is an era of colonialism, there is no history of Cairo. He was so, how come you can see this? Look, who were behind, I asked, who were before Ottomans? Mamaliks. Were they Egyptian? No, they were Cherokees. Who were before Mamaliks? Ayyubids. Were they Egyptian? No, Saladin Ayyubi was born in Mesopotamia. Who were before that? Fatimids. Were they Egyptian? No, they were not Egyptian. Before that, Ptolemies. Were they Egyptian? They were Turkic origin. Before that, Abbasids. Were they Egyptian? No, they were Arabs from Hijaz. Before that, Umayyads. Were they Egyptian? No, Before that, Byzantine. Were they Egyptian? No. Before that, Romans. Were they Egyptian? No. Before that, I said, you can go back to Paroax, and they came from the south. They were not from Cairo. I said, then if you think that Ottoman is colonial era, go to Khan Khalil and destroy all mosques built by Ottomans. Okay. Then go to Mamalik mosques, destroy all of them. Then destroy all Fatimid Khan's buildings. Then destroy even Amr bin As mosque, since it is a Abbasid. Then you will have nothing in Cairo. Even you will have to destroy pyramids. I said, why Cairo is big? Why is it important? Because Cairo is integrating all the newcomers with the old ones. Therefore, Cairo is a civilizational center, a great civilizational center, not because it did not exclude others, include. This is city. Jerusalem. Why Salahuddin Ayyubi is great? Why Hazreti Ömer radiallahu anh, as Islamic civilization, the only multicultural character of Jerusalem was achieved during Islamic eras. Let me say, 1197, there was Third Lateran Council by Vatican saying that Jews, no Christian can have any social relation with Jews. So Jews were isolated. But 1187, 10 years before that, Salahuddin Ayyubi invited Jews from Ashkelon to Jerusalem. So this is the difference. Today, we will have a similar challenge. Coming to limited globalization. After Alexandrian Empire, Roman order came. Roman order was a military political order at the beginning, but later they had challenges, new challenges. This is why is it important knowing history to make resemblance to today. Three trends came, reactions, philosophical reactions came to Alexandrian order. One is Stoicism. Stoicism is a universal order, organic order, and trying to integrate the human communities under one order. Second is cynicism. Cynicism is reaction. You know, before they were living in cities, in small organic structures. Suddenly Alexander the Great came and integrated all the cities. So small, now we are here, I can see all of you. If we had a big amphitheater, if I had 2,000 audience, I couldn't identify each of you. Similarly, from city-state to imperial order of Alexander, the structure has grown much bigger. This is globalization. Some people said, okay, since now we are larger, we are big communities, what should be the basis of foundation of unity? This question brought Stoicism. Second group, like Roman Diogenes, when he said to Alexander the Great, what do you want from me? He said, you remember, don't make shadow to me. This is typical cynicism. It means we don't want your empire. We don't want your big scale order. We have our own small order. We are looking for that. Relativism. And the third is Epicureanism. Epicureanism means, okay, it might be large, small. Important thing is my happiness, my enjoyment, my happiness. Now, we have the modern era globalization is replica of these. Nation states integrated and economies integrated, and in 1990s there was a term, world is becoming a small village. three reactions came out. Stoicism is the concept of New World Order. We need a new order. But some people, especially neocons, Francis Fukuyama, etc., they misuse this for Western hegemony. Cynicism of today is postmodernism. I don't care. This is my world. Now, the new generation, they are saying post-truth means cynicism. There is no truth. This, I have my own truth. We should not, I will not change you, you will not change me. There is no truth. Everybody has his own truth. And third, Epicureanism today is McDonaldism. Just happiness. I don't care what is politics, humanity, etc. Do I have a fast food good or some movies, some, etc. These three trends still, after 2,000 years, reflected today, we can observe. In Roman Empire, we can see this. The biggest, for me, throughout the history, I have certain persons which I analyzed in depth and I respected from different civilizations. The biggest statesman and philosopher of Roman Empire, can you guess?
Marcus Aurelius.
Marcus Aurelius. Why not Caesar? Because first I went to Rome in 1983. I walked in the streets and Tiber River. You can see the secularism, the spirit of secularism is there. Vatican and Roman order. Then I studied history of Rome as a city. And from Rome it started. Do you know the origin of Rome is from Troy? From Troy, from Anatolia. They came to Rome and they established. Anyway. And Caesar conquered many places. So Rome was pure Rome in 3rd century before Christ. But after that conquests, once you conquer new areas, people of that area will migrate to the center. When Marcus Aurelius came after Christ, 2nd century, when Romans achieved to the largest territories, but city of Rome became a multicultural city. And a black emperor came afterwards, Severus. So from pure Rome, pure Roman Emperor Caesar, to multicultural Rome. This is political, the natural result of political order. The problem of Caesar to conquer new lands. The problem of Marcus Aurelius was just how to govern these huge lands as an order. Therefore, he is a real philosopher king. You know, now I will make another jump to today. In 2002, I was asked to give a conference at Princeton University. That time I was pure academician, so they were inviting me without any, let me say, prejudice. And I went there, and it was for 4 months after 9/11, and Americans were the high nationalistic feelings among Americans. Everywhere American flag, and America already was preparing for invasion of Afghanistan, and there was such a high emotion. And in the conference I said, my friends, Princeton University, and there were all leading American scholars were there. I said, dear friends, now America, United States needs a new Marcus Aurelius, not a new Caesar. George W. Bush wants to be a new Caesar. That will create more problem for Americans. A Marcus Aurelius is needed. How to integrate the Latins, all different. Washington, New York is not pure American anymore. And I said, there was name of Barack Obama, I said, the next Marcus Aurelius of United States will be a black American president. It was 2002. When I became foreign minister, Barack Obama came to Turkey. People showed that interview, published in Turkey as well. So it was because I know how it is natural. Now, migration, Trump wants to turn the history back. He cannot do it, don't worry. It is history is back. He wants to have a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant American and plus Jewish, WASP and Jew. As if during Marcus Aurelius' time, they want to expel all. Can you imagine there was a Zoroastrian temple in Rome? I went. And Iranian temples. And a black emperor was. So, multiculturalism in that sense is the base of multilateralism. If you want to govern big societies, like today, you have to have an understanding that humanity is diversification of races, ethnicities, religions, and you should look only from the perspective of humanity. This Stoicism, in order to keep Roman Empire together, has been transformed and transformed itself, Christianity, from a Middle Eastern Judaic religion to a European Roman religion. Transformation of Christianity was one of my articles when I wrote my thesis when I was third-year student, BA, and later it became a chapter of this book. Without understanding transformation of Christianity, you cannot understand Western civilization. So why? I will explain this later. What is Islamic civilization? What is the difference of Islamic civilization? When I say use this concept civilization, the difference of Islamic civilization is Tawheed. Very simple. La ilaha illallah. Very simple. But it changed the mindset, the ontology of human beings. The uniqueness of Islamic civilization, until Islamic civilization, there was no any other religion or civilization which makes ontological equality among human beings. Yes, I was born as in a Muslim family, but I studied all the. Recently, a friend asked, somebody who, last 3 weeks ago, he said, do you know why is your impact on our society? Because you know all these traditions and you are very sincere believer in Islam. People start to think that if he is believing, I am believing as well. It is not my personal, egocentric approach. But usually, people look and makes references based on this. You might be believing in this or that. But after analyzing all these civilizations, my belief became tahkiki iman, not just being born in a Muslim family, but after searching history, I realized, and I am today proudly saying that I am a Muslim, because Islamic Tawheed, belief of Tawheed, was the first belief or philosophy based on absolute ontological equality of humanity. In India, there was caste system, ontological inequality. In Greece, there was slavery, ontological inequality. In Roman Empire, in Roman law, sometimes if you punish a person, you say you will kill 30 slaves of him. So slave was a commodity. Islam first time makes everybody equal in front of God. What is the implication of this? The implication is all these civilizations in traditional zones. When Islam spread, there was a very dynamic interaction. About space, why Islamic civilization is unique? Because Mecca and Medina was like an incubator, like distant from Mesopotamia, distant from Egypt, distant from Persia, distant from Mediterranean, an isolated area, but they have connections. It was accessible but distant. Also Yemen. But other religions, like Judaism, from Mesopotamia to Egypt, all very old civilizations were there from Sumer type. Christianity was born in Jerusalem, being transformed in Greek zone and Roman Empire. So Islamic civilization, therefore Medina is special, did emerge in Mecca, formed a city in Medina, pure based on ontological equality. Even Jewish community was accepted as equal to Muslims. About the human characteristic, Prophet ﷺ was the only person, was the only human being throughout the history, philosophical or prophets, you can compare, who brought a new belief, who in his lifetime established a social order, city, and in his lifetime established a state. He was surrounded by non-believers in Mecca. He tried to defend himself, but he also became the commander of an army. So belief, change of ontology, social order, political order, you can see all. Isa alayhi salam was only a prophet. He did not have followers, more than 13 apostles. Musa alayhi salam came from Egypt to close to Jerusalem, but didn't establish any order. Suleyman alayhi salam, Davutoğlu alayhi salam established orders, but they didn't start from zero, from beginning. So this is uniqueness. Then we have replications of Medina and replication of that order. An intellectual transformation did emerge. Alim, as a term, is a new intellectual prototype. They are not like Brahmans in India. They are not like priests in Christianity. They were not like sophists in Greek civilization. So intellectual prototype, which is subject to criticism and equal to other human beings. No Muslim scholar said, I am alim, so I can guarantee my paradise and I can sell a place of paradise to you. Nobody said this, neither Imam Shafi nor Imam Hanefi, nobody. Because he knew that he doesn't have that power. Therefore, we didn't have Catholic church. Not having church is freedom. Having a church limits yourself. But having a community is different because all members of community, they are equal to each other. And Islamic civilization, this is the fastest spread of any civilization in the history. A person like Umar radiallahu anh, who did not see any other city except Mecca or a small, some trips, didn't know anything on other civilizations maybe, but he conquered all the basic capitals of Mesopotamia, Levant, and Egypt. This change of pioneers of a civilization is only in Islam. Some people question hadith, about hadith, whether when I studied usul al-hadith, I implemented mathematical models to usul al-hadith. I can tell you, hadith is a miracle. Why? Because all other civilizations were transformed, were changed, deviated because of the spread of, verbal narratives. For example, Bible is in fact narratives of apostles, or Rig Veda and many other Upanishads. In Islam, Quran is there, but Hadith is systematization of verbal narrations, and from a critical perspective. So then Islam spread. Of course, we had, I don't mean that Islam, it was a heaven. No, we had Karbala, we had dynasties, oppression, but the essence, von Grinebaum says a very impressive sentence, an Orientalist. Empires comes and goes, but Islam survives. What is the spirit of this survival? The spirit is ontological equality of humanity. 3 challenges came to. If you don't stop me, I will continue.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you
But
said that because
I will.
Okay, we've reached an hour.
Okay.
So I want to
An hour? I thought 10 minutes. Okay.
No. We have 10 minutes left.
Okay.
But
I
what do you
will
want
summarize.
to do?
Comment.
What do you want to do with this session? Do you want to go on into have the break and then continue on?
Okay.
In the next session, what do you want to do?
Okay. I will now a small analysis of modern world system.
Yeah.
Then UN system and the post Cold War, I will do in the second session.
Okay.
Islamic civilization had 3 challenges. One is Crusaders, Mongols, and colonialism. Crusaders and Mongols, they were big military challenges, created security problems. But since they were much less developed in philosophical, intellectual accumulation, they either had to leave Muslim lands, like Crusaders, or they were assimilated and integrated in the Muslim world like Mongols. After 2 centuries, nobody realized Mongols. They destroyed political orders, but Muslims were able to restore political order, like Crusaders destroyed and Selçukis defended Anatolia. But after 987, around 87 years, Selahaddin Eyyubi came and restored order, and they had to leave. Mongols came and destroyed. After Mongols, Ottomans restored political order. But colonialism was not a military challenge. It was an intellectual, philosophical, economic challenge at the same time. Therefore, still the Muslim world did not properly respond and reinterpret the new international context after colonial expansionism. All basic Islamic civilizations centers were occupied. The last real order of the Islamic civilization was 16th century. People thought that after 16th century Islam has fallen. No, this is not. Or after fall of the Baghdad, no. 16th century, the main civilization centers were under the control of 3 Islamic Safavids from Iran to India, and Baburs from India to all Bengal, etc. After colonialism, first commercial colonialism and mercantilism, then industrial colonialism, this main civilizational axis start to be under the control of Western colonial powers. And there was a shift in 17th century. The concept of world started to be seen from European perspectives. 1597, I have seen a demographic census. The biggest city of the world was, which city was the biggest city? Can you predict? 1587, Istanbul, 1 million. Second biggest city?
Beijing.
Beijing, yes. Beijing. Third? Cairo. And Paris, London was not in the first 5-10. So, but in 19th century, of course, this all changed. And 1857, there he was, the British imperialism. After industrial revolution. What they did in Bengal was terrible. They cut off all the fingers of one generation in Bengal just to stop the traditional production of textiles in order to open textile industrial production for Manchester. So colonialism and especially the mindset, enslaved. And intellectual leaders tried to respond to this. Therefore, I said Muhammad Iqbal is important. In Turkey, new young Ottomans, many things, Ahmet Cevdet Pasha in Turkey. A reaction to where are we going? The process of westernization started. And now still, I will, in the second time, maybe I will continue the transformation of the Muslim world as a concept, as a geography. I will come to that maybe in the second round. But before that, I want to say something which on political order. After 17th century, the concept of political order became Europeanized. And from that time until now, there has been always chaos and cosmos. I said, war is chaos, peace is cosmos. All the global wars created new challenges and new congresses. After 1639, the 48, the 30 Years' War, Westphalian Peace. Napoleonic Wars, Congress of Vienna. First World War, League of Nations. Second World War, United Nations. So that adjustment I will discuss in the next session. Where are we going after Second World War? UN system, where is it going? So I will stop here now, and the analysis of the 20th century and to post-Cold War I will do the next time. Okay?
Thank you very much. Round of applause for the professor.